Hi everybody, this is Non-Duality Talk. I'm Jerry Katz. My guest is Magdi Badawy. Hi Magdi.
Hello, hello, Jerry.
Hi. Welcome.
Hey,
Thanks for being
thank
here. Gonzalo Fernandez
Yes,
introduced us. Gonzalo, how do you know Gonzalo?
yes. I know Gonzalo. I believe I first met Gonzalo online on Facebook, and then at some point in time, he was traveling through the U.S., and I invited him to come and spend some time over our house. And I believe he spent a couple of weeks, and we just hung out and got to know each other. And then about, I would say a few months back, 2, 3 months back or so, he invited me, him and a group of friends in Costa Rica invited me for a retreat. And I went out and conducted a few days retreat.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, relationship is still unfolding.
Gonzalo puts together, invites speakers to Costa Rica.
Hmm.
She's a native of Costa Rica.
Yes.
So you went. That's pretty neat.
Yes, yes. It was really very lovely to be there. Very beautiful, beautiful group of people.
Yeah, it must be beautiful there.
Very, very mature people and very good inquiry, serious, mature group of truth lovers. It was very, very lovely to be there.
And my friend Mandy LaBelle says hi
Mandy, hello, Mandy. Yes, please say hi to Mandy. Very
to
sweet.
you. Now, and did I say you're in Virginia? You're in Virginia, right?
Yes, I live right outside of Washington, D.C., about in Northern Virginia, which is like uh, literally a stone throw away from the capital.
Yeah. And I guess you met Mandy. I get the names confused between Mandy.
Right. I do too sometimes.
So you met at Francis Lucille retreats.
Yes, yes, I believe, I'm not sure, maybe a couple of times we met in Temecula at Francis. Yes, and I think a few years back, I used to ask questions online with Francis. There used to be a webcast, and also I used to see Mandy also online before meeting her in person in Temecula.
Yeah. You have a website. It's Magdi Badawy.
Yes.
I'm saying your name right. .com.
No, no, it's good. Yes. Yes, I mostly on my web page. I just put in posts, from Facebook. I'm quite active on Facebook. I post quite frequently, and on occasion I paste my posts on my website, as well as some videos. There are regular meetings we have here every week. People come over and we meet. We've been meeting for a few years now. So I record parts of the meetings, and I post some of them on Facebook and on my web page.
I don't know what to do. I don't know. You're a teacher. Tell me what to do with the glasses. I have no idea.
Just get those glasses that without the glare. Get those
I
glasses.
don't need you or Francis Lucille to tell me that. I know that.
You asked, so I answer.
You gave an answer. The
I
answers
did.
are,
I did.
maybe all the answers are simple. I don't know. They're as simple as that. Maybe the glasses aren't always at the optician. Maybe you have to look inside for the glasses.
Mm.
Look within for the glare-free glasses.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah, looking within makes sense. Makes sense.
Okay, you say it makes sense, but that you don't. But you're not saying you have to look within. You're saying it's a way of looking at it, or what am I hearing
Well,
when you say it makes sense?
you can't force it. It has to sort of ripen. It has to unfold. It's not,
Yeah,
when you're sort of forcing it, it doesn't necessarily, it has to sort of come to you, this a certain interest in looking within. And this sort of interest in looking within, I think we all, to a certain extent, have it, but there is a habit and a tendency to look outside for answers. And there is an impression that, that my happiness will come by looking outside. Am I speaking loud enough, or do I need to?
I can hear. I hope the recording
Okay.
comes out. No, it should.
Okay, let me know. Let me know, because sometimes I have a tendency to. So yeah, we explore the external world. There is this impression that that the goods are out there, and at some point in time we get it. That what we're looking for cannot be fulfilled by what is impermanent. That what we're looking for is a permanent, is the permanent, is that doesn't come and go. The peace, the love, the happiness, the joy, that doesn't depend on a relationship. It doesn't depend on owning a big house or having a great job or being popular. At some point, it sort of becomes really clear. Up to then, maybe it goes back and forth. It's sort of like we get it and then we forget. You know what I mean? It's like we get it that it's not my happiness is not in a relationship. But before we know it, we find ourselves chasing the next relationship. It's a forgetfulness, and at some point we start to sort of look within, sort of we stop. I mean, we stop, or the chase, the external chase, slows down, and when the external chase slows down, then we start to experience a little bit of peace. And it's that experience of peace that that draws us. There is a perfume to it, and it draws us. The more often or the more frequently we experience, the peace, the love, the beauty. That doesn't depend on anything. That's just sort of innate. The more we find ourselves drawn towards resting and towards contemplation. So it's an unfolding. It's a process, and of course, it helps when you are around people that exude this quality, and somehow at some level you recognize it. And it resonates, and this resonance is a lovely resonance, and it draws you. It draws your interest. Might not, be able to really grasp it, but it's something that draws you. And usually the mind starts spinning, because the mind has a tendency to objectify. It attaches a form to the formless. So it would attach an object, it would attach an experience. It would say, I have to have this experience, or it would attach to the person. I need to follow this person. So initially the mind will spin, and you will find yourself chasing again after some form. But again, it comes to you again that the perfume of love and peace is not in a form. So it's a forgetting and recollecting, and the more you recollect that peace is causeless, and that freedom is really causeless, the more there is this recollection, the more we savor this quality, and the less chasing, the less going out, the tendency weakens and softens, and we find ourselves more and more in the peace.
Mm. Yeah, hopefully. What do I?
Well, I'm just talking about how my understanding of it. Of course, Yeah, I mean, in a way, we're looking for that in one way or the other in everything that we pursue, in everything that we do.
Yeah.
We want happiness. We want peace and happiness and beauty. But it's the mistake is to imagine that happiness is personal, and so we pursue a personal happiness, and sometimes, or maybe often, we ignore. It's not inclusive, and because it's not inclusive, it's not complete, and so the wholeness, the fullness, is not experienced. There is some sort of exclusivity or seclusion to our pursuit of happiness, and but in time we realize that the only way to really secure happiness in a way is it has to be win-win. It has to be across the board. There has to be a certain listening space that is open, like completely open, and that has an understanding quality to it, and it has a compassionate quality to it, an understanding that that this what we consider to be the other is really myself. It's sort of like the same field of energy, the same vibrational field.
Just talk
Sort
about
of,
that. I just was keying in on that phrase, listening space.
yes.
What,
Yeah, the listening.
the way you described it sounded like that's a space that allows the one and the other,
Yes.
or an other, to be seen as the same, or
Yeah.
to find the the non-duality, the sameness, the
Yes.
beingness, whatever that is.
Right.
That is,
Because, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. So is that what that listening space is? Can you talk more about listening
Yeah.
space?
Yeah. Absolutely. So the listening space is it's an openness, and that has no borders to it. No, it's not a personal structure. It's sort of actually listening space is love. Is a loving space. But it's not a space in the physical sense. It's a space in the experiential sense of peace and openness. And there is an interest in discovering and understanding, and it's a creative space in which everything is sort of arising and is echoing the space. It's not just echoing just what's appearing in the space, but it's echoing the listening. It's sort of resonating the listening. So the object, the conversation that arises in the space, in the listening space, brings you to the listening. Yeah, it resonates the listening, not so much what is listened to, but the listening itself. Because listening, in its purest sense, has no person, no limited person that is doing any listening. It's as if consciousness is listening, or the universe is listening, or it's a cosmic listening. It's this one consciousness that is speaking and listening simultaneously. It's listening to what is speaking, and the speaking comes from the listening, and everything is sort of that's arising in the listening space points to the listening, which is a stillness, which is a quality of stillness, and it's inclusive. It's inherently inclusive. It's not. It's an effortless space. The space of presence, you could use that term, the space of presence that somehow is overlooked when there is a contraction into a person, into the me structure. Then when there is a contraction in the me structure, then the listening space is an impression that it has some kind of form to it, some sort of limits to it, some sort of boundaries to it, and then the inclusive quality of the listening space contracts into an imagined form, which is more of a sensation. It's like a me sensation. It's like a sense of me, and immediately what comes with that is the other, is an external other, or an external world, or another me, like for example, like a worse me, or a better me, or a future me, which is still a projection. You know, it's a sensory experience of separation into imagined forms. But what the core thing about this contraction is that it's unhappy. It's not peaceful. It's agitated. It's agitated, and it's seeking the end to the agitation. It wants to come to the peace of the open listening, of presence. But in the absence of having gone through certain years of contemplation and acquired certain maturity and certain understanding, and even certain tools of contemplation, it's very difficult to sort of pull out of that contraction and recognize the openness of presence, the openness of being, the openness of being.
Yeah, I mean, there's even a certain pleasure in that contraction, and a lot of like nostalgia goes with it. I was on Facebook, and someone, I forget who wrote it or where I saw it, but someone said that. I'll paraphrase it in a way that doesn't have much to it, but when you, in the original way it was written, it was funny. But basically, someone was saying that they're nostalgic for their suffering. You know, they want to go back, and sometimes when I think myself, I can't know if I ever really suffered, but there was a time of searching. Yeah. I miss it because, you know, I used to drive around LA in my '69 Charger and smoke cigars and go to metaphysical bookstores and bomb around, and I liked it, you know. Yeah. And I feel like I know too much now. Like I can't do that now. There's nothing there. There's no use there for me now. And so now I go around interviewing people or something. You know, I'm not really, you know, looking for anything. Back then I was, you know, I knew for something. Yeah. And kind of miss that. So I mean, there's a certain pleasure to the contraction, but maybe it's just limited. It's pleasure itself is contracted, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, you know, pleasure in a way is intrinsically connected to a sense of lack. It's different from joy, because pleasure is connected to an object. You have to get this object and experience the pleasure, but until you get that experience, you are in some angst, there is a certain lack, a certain seeking, a certain you know, desire for that pleasure. And when you get it, it feels like really, you know, really lovely. But pleasure comes hand in hand with the other side of the coin, which is the sense of lack and sense of angst. And I distinguish between pleasure and joy, because joy it's across the board. It doesn't depend on any, you know, on any form or any object. But, you know, one thing about like seeking pleasure, in a way you could say that we imagine through our pursuit of pleasure, we imagine that there is a happiness, you know, in in attaining this pleasurable experience. But one of the ways in which like I think about it is that once you attain, the desired object, at that moment you are in a desireless state, because that desire at that moment has ended, because you've achieved what you're desiring. So in a way, the happiness that you experience at that moment is not the happiness of having achieved or attained the object, but the happiness of desirelessness, which is a freedom from form, freedom. Desirelessness is a form of freedom. So the happiness is in the freedom, not so much in the attaining the object, but in attaining desirelessness in a way. How do you attain desirelessness? I mean,
when they get something.
I'm sorry?
I was saying a lot of people, when they get something, say they've saved money for something and they finally get it, and then there's a certain high associated with it for a little while, and then
yes.
Then you realize it's not permanent, and you feel kind of a little depressed or something. So I don't know if they were getting happy from the desirelessness. I think they were.
They're getting unhappy because their happiness has been associated with attaining this object, which is impermanent. An hour later, or a day later, or a month later, that object, the relationship, the car, the whatever, now you have a flat tire on your car, or the gas mileage on the car is much more than you thought. And so because you associated your happiness with an object, yes, you have not gotten the understanding. There is a misunderstanding that your happiness is depending on the object, and as a result of that, as a result of the impermanent quality of the object, you find yourself soon enough in unhappiness again, seeking the next object. But once you contemplate that what was your happiness, or what is your happiness, is the end of that desire, it invites you to a contemplation. It invites you to pause. It's an important invitation to pause and contemplate. What is it to be desireless? What is it that desires? What is the sense of lack? So it's an invitation to go in and explore. What is it that is experiencing a sense of lack? And what is the quality of a sense of lack? You have to look at it, because we don't look at it. And as long as we don't look at it, we don't notice the unhappiness, because sense of lack is inherently very unhappy. It's unhappy in our belly, it's unhappy in our chest, it's unhappy in our neck, it's unhappy in our dreams, in our night dreams, because it goes on. So this invitation to contemplate, say, wait a minute, what really makes you happy in your desire is when you reach desirelessness. It's a desireless state that's happy. Then it makes you stop. If you're interested, you stop, you pause, and you contemplate. What does that mean? It's true that when I get that relationship, if you really contemplate it, you reason it, that at that moment, that desire is fulfilled, meaning that desire has come to zero. At that moment, it has come to zero, and you're feeling just fine, A-okay. You see? So then you notice, well, wait a minute, the mind is saying, aha, I have this object, it's so beautiful, it's so great, I love it, but now, wait a minute, I come home and she's not cooking the meal that, my favorite meal, or when I come home really tired, she's, or he or she or my partner isn't coming home and smiling at me, and gee, they don't like the fact that I snore right now. What you see, very quickly, when your happiness is connected with any form, you are bound to be disappointed, because all forms are constantly in flow, arising and dissolving in the space. But that does not come and go is presence, is consciousness. That's, So desirelessness, in a way, consciousness or presence is a desireless state. Like, for example, right now we're here together. There is a loving space of just being together, listening, communicating, exploring, whatever. It's very loving. There is nothing that is desired or wanted. Of course, we're conducting the interview, but there is a desireless state, there is a peaceful quality to that, and there is a recognition. The recognition of that is very important recognition, because as long as we don't recognize that peace is inherent to presence, that the desireless state, the peace, the tranquility is inherent to presence, to this quality of mind that is not looking out for anything, that is just sort of, it's a presence that's there. That recognition is an important recognition, and it's not in any experience, because in experience, even the most holy experience or spiritual experience, or even seeing God, seeing truth, realizing the complete illusion of the separate self, still is not the full revelation of consciousness, because the revelation of consciousness is a revelation of the eternity of presence, which that does not come and go. And that's where the beauty lies. That's where the peace and the happiness lies. And there is a contemplation that brings you to the realization that your inherent reality is peace and tranquility and presence. That does not depend on any experience or on any form. So this suffering being seductive, that is sort of it's a resistance. It's a statement and an impression that comes from this nostalgia to suffering that you mentioned earlier. Nostalgia for suffering is an impression that is interested in maintaining the impression of a separate me that loves its suffering. It's a story. It's not true. It's really not true. The mind says anything. The mind utters anything and everything. Who cares? That's not where the reality is. That's not where the truth is. That's not where the peace and the happiness is. It's not in what the mind is uttering. It's beyond that. It's not what is expressed. It's what is not expressed. It's the space, let's say, in which expression appears. And when there is the sort of a sense of the space in which all expressions appear, then the expressions themselves become sweet and tender and gentle and beautiful, because of that recognition. The recognition of the space of presence sweetens the dream, because it removes from the dream the impression that I am a limited body-mind form that has to protect himself or herself from, events, or that has to seek. It has to seek something, the sense of limitation and lack. You see, so the revelation of more than at the understanding level, at the experiential level, of the quality of presence, that presence is the reality of our experience, completely sweetens the dream and removes the thorn of mortality out of it.
All right, well, I still want to get in my 69 Charger and
that's beautiful. That's a great celebration, Jerry. Wait a minute.
Listen to disco music.
In no way was I. Don't misunderstand me. We can celebrate the world, body, mind all we want. Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But when our happiness depends on getting in the charger, for example, or when our happiness depends on a certain experience, now that's a different thing. You see, I would get on my bike and ride and just celebrate that. But my happiness is my freedom. It's already recognized, you see?
Yeah.
I celebrate inviting friends over, having dinner together, going to a movie, going to the theater, whatever. That's a celebrating the dream is beautiful. But it's the celebration of the dream is not fully available to us when we are contracted in a separate body-mind impression. That's why the contemplation is important. It's important not just for the realization of the self, but it also brings celebration, glorious celebration of the dream.
Yeah.
So yeah, enjoy your charger. That's great. Love it.
That's good. I think you made a great discernment and explanation. So that was great. Now, how did it happen that you became a teacher? What's your life? What's your life been like? What are some of the milestones that got you to where we are today, this moment, this second in time?
Yes. So in the 70s, I would say like about maybe 73 or 74, I had I refer to it as a glimpse into the non-reality of the separate self and into the glory of consciousness. This glimpse was a momentous glimpse. Was totally unexpected. I was at the university in Troy, New York, studying engineering, and so soon afterwards, I met a friend at the university who was the dean of the humanities department, dear friend John Kohler, and he turned me on to Zen meditation. And there was a Zen Center in Sharon Springs, upstate New York, about 25 miles from Troy. And so I didn't know anything about Zen. I just followed John's recommendation and went and started attending Zazenkais. They used to call them like a Zen, Zen retreats. Just basically it was just Soto Zen. Well, Rinzai, it was a mixture of Rinzai and Soto, just sitting. And I got very drawn to that somehow. I wasn't searching for anything. I was like sort of magnetically drawn to meditation. And then I joined the Rochester Zen Center, became a student of Philip Kapleau. And after that, I met Toni Packer, who was a teacher at the Rochester Zen Center. And she left the Rochester Zen Center and set up, make a long story short, she set up the Springwater Center, and I immediately went and was drawn to her style of teaching and her way of expressing herself. And I worked, meaning I attended retreats for many years with Toni, and I had a few, say, couple of major, again, full-blown glimpses in consciousness, in the reality of consciousness. And at some point in time, the whole teaching, I had a vasana, a sort of a self-identification, a me-identification that arose as a teacher. So I had an image of myself as a teacher. That was probably like about 15 years ago. And I started sort of living it out. And because it was coming, there was a me tendency in that. There was all sorts of complications in how it wasn't just a smooth unfolding. And at some point in time, I realized that, and I sort of went into sort of a sabbatical for a few years. I think 5 to 7 years. I just, stopped everything and just lived my life. My entire life I've been working, have 2 children, married, and all of that. I was just never was a monk or any such thing. And about a few years ago, probably 5 years ago or so, I came upon Rupert Spira and Francis Lucille, and I started. I listened to a couple of videos of Francis, and I became interested in what he was saying. I had a couple of questions, so I started posing questions to him, and over a period of 3 or 4 months, I had a series of questions, and at some point, sort of after the fact, I realized something had changed. It was as if there was a merging. It's as if the world dissolved in me and I dissolved in the world. Something of the sort. And when I noticed that, I didn't want to buy into it. I thought, no, that's just Mokyo. That's just an experience, and it's nonsense. It can't be. I'm gonna try to get myself back into how it was before, into me, the enlightened person, whatever. But I couldn't. It was like there was a merging that couldn't reverse. Excuse me. And so then there was like a recognition.
There was a kind of a resistance to this change that was happening. How did that?
That resistance was sort of intentional. I wanted to make sure that what I was quotes unquote experiencing was real. I said, no, let me see if I can pull myself out of it. This merging, if it's real, it's real. If it's not real, then I have to be able to pull myself out of it, because I'm not going to buy into something that is not real.
It could just be a mental state, and you don't want to mess with that.
Correct. I didn't want to.
Drug, you can, the presence of another person could be like a drug,
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't. That's not what I was looking for.
So you needed to test that.
Yes, it was I just tested it with myself, and then at some point in time, it was recognized. There was a recognition that, okay, that's, and then there was just a tremendous clarity, peace, and causeless peace, and happiness, and a clarity. Somehow, this clarity that's sort of, it's like not mine. It's just, I think it's just a ripening of the entire process, that at some point it sort of, it starts to express itself. And so I found this expression available, and all doubts that previously existed that I was looking at about teaching, they dissolved. All these doubts were gone. And at that point I decided, okay, I'm going to basically set up a meetup group. I said, I'm going to set up a meetup group, and people around here who are interested in non-duality, they can come, and one thing led to the other, and here I am.
So this was like a genuine movement on your part. You had the sense of being a teacher some years ago. You realized it didn't quite, it wasn't an authentic thing. So you kind of, put that on hold for a while. And then this kind of new entry, this new realization, then made it obvious that it was time to see if people were interested. Maybe you didn't call yourself a teacher, but you realized it was time for a sharing.
Yeah. It's like Jerry. It's like it was like sort of a choiceless. There are like some choices that we make. Like there is no, there's not. It's like you gotta go that way. It's like some choices they're like made for you in a way.
So
meeting Tara was like that. There's no choice. It's sort of
the initial attempt to teach sounded like it was a choice.
Yes.
And the second one was choiceless. So that's a huge. It's a huge, and it was accompanied by this new realization that you first tested to see if it was real.
Yes.
How integral was your relationship with Francis Lucille at that time toward, as far as this new perception?
Yeah. Let me see. If I understood, I'm not sure that I heard your question really well. Do you mind rephrasing it, Jerry? I want to make sure I'm answering the right question.
Yeah, as you were experiencing this new realization, this new perception, and even testing it, how important was Francis Lucille as a guide or a teacher?
Yeah, I consider, I never even knew the term Sadguru, the guru that sort of finishes the job. I never heard that term, although I spent years, it was mostly in the Zen Buddhist tradition, which I don't think that term, I've never heard that term, but I recognize Francis as my Sadguru, as the guru that finishes the job. So I have deep gratitude, and of course the gratitude is, it's an open gratitude. It's a gratitude for everything and everybody. Gratitude for you. Gratitude is really from consciousness to consciousness. But in the waking dream, I have a particular gratitude for Francis as being sort of the final clarification, the final revelation.
He's very well known. A lot of people love Francis. And what do you think? Can you identify any qualities about him, or maybe that's not important?
Oh no, Francis. It takes a little. Just my own experience with Francis was like I was immediately. Well, interestingly, I met Francis it must have been 12, about 17 years ago. I met Francis in Washington, D.C. He was giving it's satsang, I guess, and I was just going through my first divorce, and I was there. I asked him a question. He said something. I sort of liked what he said, but that was it, Then, that was that. But it was the same Francis, really, that I met 5 years ago. And suddenly the Francis that I meet 5 years ago, I'm just completely passionate to understand what he means by this, what he means by that. Can he clarify this? Can he clarify that? Francis, the new Francis, or is it the Magdi, who knows, is very clear. He's very scientific in his teaching. He's very clear in his pointing, and he's very unpredictable in his answers. He would point. He would just hears your question. He's very astute at hearing your question and understanding your question and addressing it, even sort of your question within your question. He would address that, and I've been listening to Francis for a few years now. I still do. I love his teaching style, and I'm learning a lot in terms of how to share and explore with people through listening to Francis and how he addresses questions and the sort of metaphors that he uses. He's a great source of anecdotes and metaphors and humor, and and he's not like a sentimental type of person. He really gets to the point, and I guess when you're ready for a certain teaching, that teaching appears to you. And when you're ready for Francis' style of teaching, that teaching appears to you. It's not something that you can make sort of an across-the-board statement about a teacher, that's for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like in my case, I've worked, with Toni for many years. At some point,
Packer. Yeah.
yeah, Toni Packer, yes, yeah. And at some point, it, I somehow it became clear to me that that was finished. It was finished. It took me a while to realize that because I had some sort of, the whole teaching thing and the Zen tradition of being sort of the air, teacher, or the getting the Dharma transmission and being the. Toni wasn't into that, but because I had come through the Zen tradition, there was all these, all these tendencies within me, and they played themselves out in my relationship with Toni, and it's really after the fact that I realized that my work with Toni was done a few years back, but I still was I was still working it.
That's interesting. I mean, because some people might be doing that, they might be doing the work that they don't, that they're ready to move on from.
Yeah, yeah. Some form of attachments, of course. I mean, we live in the relationship with our teacher. Probably quite a few of the relationships we have with our parents. Some of the issues that we're still haven't fully sort of worked out to a certain extent, that arises, in the relationship with the teacher, the projections, and so it's and depending on like in the teachings that I came upon. I mean, not too many teachers, but just a few. There is a whole culture around a teacher, and the more elaborate the culture is, the more it's like a net. The more the fish get caught in it. uh, I, I'm more in my style, or I favor a sober, friendliness that doesn't have too much adornment, not too much dressings around it, so that there can be a simplicity, directness, and we can like talk as friends and explore as friends, not get wrapped up in the ceremonies, in the robes, in the and also like the sangha. There is a sangha that comes around the teacher that forms, which is basically like the, people who love truth, who come around the teacher, who are really drawn to that style of exploration. And you don't want to add more dressing to what's already a very dressed up mind. The mind is already there's a lot of costumes, you don't want to add on to that. It's more an releasing and undoing, rather than swapping one role for another, or one identity for another. And there are a lot of subtlety in identities. Even when you're very sober, the mind, even when a teacher is very sober, in the community, in the sangha around the teacher, there can be all sorts of still the personal tendencies to identify, to form some sort of image. So it's really important to address that in the teaching.
And it works both ways. I mean, the teacher can identify.
Oh, absolutely.
So when it's working both ways, I mean, things can go crazy.
Absolutely.
The one built on the other.
Absolutely.
How do you prevent that? How do you keep that from? How do you? Fresh.
Whenever there is an identification of, on the behalf of the teacher or the behalf of the student, in quotes and quotes, there is a certain degree of unhappiness, because in identification there is dependency, and there is a certain contraction, a certain limitation, because the unlimited state is completely disidentified naturally. Consciousness is naturally disidentified. There is no identification in it. So there is a certain degree of unhappiness. And when there is a certain degree of unhappiness, there is a certain degree of unclarity and confusion in the expression. So the only way to really deal with that is to be very genuine and sincere with yourself. Nobody can make you look and see what you're not willing to look and see at. Whether you're a teacher or a student, doesn't matter. It's a vasana or an identification or tendency is a tendency. No matter how you categorize yourself, you're categorizing yourself. You see, so like truly in true teaching, there isn't an identification. It's okay, I mean, it's consciousness speaking through a person, through an instrument, through a body, mind, through a friend, and that friend has their own personal characteristics, their tendencies, and so on. But these tendencies are at the body, mind level, and the reason that the tendencies at the body, mind level don't affect the realization, what you are. There is a stability in the recognition, but so it's really, really important to be very sincere. And the teacher can teach and say, hey, listen, I'm teaching you, and you know what? I get unhappy and identified sometimes, or often, whatever, or I feel that I'm a teacher. And okay, so that's genuine. Okay, that's genuine, and it would be even more beautiful if a teacher can say, "Well, I identify as a teacher, and this identification is unhappy, and I'm experiencing this unhappiness." Now that's really beautiful, because we all recognize that. We can understand that. We can understand that, and that is an expression that is true. It's a true sharing. So, but if you understand that, oh well, a teacher, for example, is beyond suffering, and you are suffering, and you sweep it under the rug, or you don't recognize it, meaning that your contemplation is you're not looking in all directions. There is some places that you're not looking. At some point or the other, the student is gonna get from you as far as they can get, and they're gonna go on in their journey, because you cannot take a student beyond where you're at. That's very, very rare. Student can only climb to the summit that you are sharing, that you are exploring, and truly. A truth lover is looking for the complete revelation. The complete revelation. We all are as truth lovers, and so at some point or the other, you just find yourself somewhere else. Somewhere else. And in a way, that was my journey, yeah. And journey of a lot of us, most of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think in this interview, you took us on a journey. We got to know you. I got to know you.
Beautiful.
Nothing about you, really. But I feel I know you now.
Beautiful.
Magdi Badawy. You can say your name, so you say it properly, maybe.
It's Magdi Badawy. Badawy. Badawi means Bedouin. It's an Arabic word. It means Bedouin.
Okay. Badawy, and that's your website, MagdiBadawy.com. I'll appreciate a lot of your discussions and explanations and discernments.
Nice being with you, Jerry.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the space of being with you. It's very lovely. Thank you for your presence and for the offering that you're making in making this available to people. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.